Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever. Hello to everybody that is now a part of the Fraud Project. I made this video, or I am making this video, because I wanted to address something that got brought up today. A very good question about one of our fellow Fraud Project members. And her question was, I thought that family court issues could not be decided in federal court. And so it was an extremely good question. It's why I need everybody's questions. The relevant information that we all need to place in our cases is in questions like that. That's exactly the type of conversations that we need to be having. And so I'm going to answer that question, and I'm going to add a couple things to it. First of all, what you're referring to is the Rooker Feldman doctrine. Okay, so the Rooker Feldman doctrine basically says that the state court's decisions are not something that the federal court is willing to intervene in. Okay, and so this is a perfect question, because in order for us to have successful cases that are based on family court and things that have been done, we have to understand what doctrines we have to satisfy, etc. So here is the answer to the question. The Rooker Feldman doctrine also clearly outlines the fact that if there is fraud done in the case, then from the inception of the case, the judicial machinery of that court is corrupted to the point that the case was never legally decided. So, and when I say that, what I mean is nullification, void ab initio, is part of what we're going to that's part of why this group is necessary. The remedy that we need in our fraud on the court cases is to be able to prove to the federal courts why they need to intervene in these cases, even though they're family court related. And the reason that we are able to do that is, once again, back to the Hazel Atlas Glass Company. You need to look up that citation in law. Needs to be in every one of our cases, but you need to look up that case law. Hazel Atlas Glass is what outlines how fraud on the court undermines the judicial machinery to the point that it's been corrupted. All right, so number one, that's what we're going to prove. Number two, the Rooker Feldman doctrine is satisfied when the judicial machinery of each case was corrupted so badly against us that the judgment, the case, nothing from its inception even applies. It is what you consider a legal nullity, like I said. So one of the requests that we're going to be making is for a federal judge to make a decree that our cases, because of the fraud, were null or void ab initio from the beginning. And so there are several different doctrines that we have to satisfy and several different obstacles that we have to overcome. But that's why I created this process, because I have done that and I know how to guide everybody else to do that based on what I did. I am not a lawyer. Okay? I do not practice law. I will not practice law. But what I will do is tell you exactly what I did. So next thing is judicial immunity, and I want to answer this question because I know everybody has it. When you are in a case of fraud on the court and the judicial machinery of the case itself has been corrupted, it is easy to prove that the judge and the other actors that colluded against you, conspiracy to deprive of rights under color of law, when that is what has taken place, then there is no judicial immunity for that judge. And we have to make each of these requests and statements in the complaint of fraud on the court. And we have to do that because if we don't, then our cases will not be acknowledged or recognized. They will be immediately dismissed. So in order to successfully do what we need to do, we need to put in our cases that judicial immunity does not apply. Anytime a judge acts outside their jurisdiction, okay, and in my case, for example, the judge acted in complete absence of jurisdiction. She literally created the case against me, okay, so she could adjudicate it in her own court. So in that case, there is an absolute no judicial immunity that applies because there is an absence of jurisdiction. So when I do these videos, I'm going to be hoping and expecting that you take notes and that you do research, and I'm going to be posting on the things that need to be looked up and researched by everybody anyway. But this legal remedy that I've come up with literally shoots down every single issue that prevents parents from having their cases in federal court. You have to understand that the Rooker Feldman doctrine is, and again, this was a very, very good question. This is why I need people asking questions so I can directly answer them. But the Rooker Feldman doctrine means that in the cases that we're presenting to the federal court, that we are showing that there is a need for the federal court to intervene. Okay, and that need for the federal court to intervene is absolutely satisfied under the fraud on the court. But in family court, when we prove as a whole with this project that there is RICO that we all know has taken place, and when we get these cases in and get them seen, the whole purpose and function of this fraud project is to present to the federal courts why there needs to be some type of forced government intervention, federal court intervention, etc., based on the absolute fraud that's going on in these doctrines, okay, or in these cases. Now, I want to say something else. The difference between our cases and the ones that people have previously filed, okay, is that we are all going to ask for damages. We're all eligible for damages, because when there is fraud on the court, again, that means that the judge is acting in an absence of jurisdiction in our cases. We're going to identify exactly which laws, which rights, etc. are violated for us. And we're going to do it constructed in such a way that we also want to prove to them that these cases are a matter of public interest. So that is also a question that is going to be in these cases that needs to be clearly addressed in each and every fraud on the court complaint. We need to satisfy the question of why should the federal court intervene in our individual case, and one of the answers that we're going to give them is because it's become a matter of public safety. So again, I can't give legal advice, I can't do any of that, but I can tell you what I did. So here's what I did. In my particular federal case, I let the federal courts know that if one judge can act in this capacity and create a case against someone where there was no clear evidence at all of any wrongdoing on my part, and yet they still illegally adopted out my child, removed my other children, then that presents a matter of public safety, because not only did it harm the well-being of my children and myself, but it also means that every other of the thousands of people in the county that this judge rules over are eligible for the judge to continue to make decisions that are in absence of jurisdiction. The number one thing that I need to remind everybody today is that this is a matter of law. Law does not work like people think it does, and that was what my 8 years worth of research is absolutely, hopefully, going to teach you. Law is not about the difference between right and wrong. Law is about what you can prove and what you can't prove. Law is about, it's basically ingredients in a recipe. If you have all the proper ingredients in your federal fraud on the court complaint, then the federal courts have no choice but to intervene. And so what I have created this group to do is make sure that everybody has the right recipe. So anyway, I appreciate you listening. Very, very good question. Please ask questions. Please become involved. Please speak, because the more that we can interact and have the answers to these important questions, the better. So each individual case matters. I hope you understand. I'm willing to take a look at every single last one. I'm hoping for the protection of the people in this group that will cover my back, because it's a very fine line that I'm treading right now. But I want everybody to also know that the ultimate end goal of this fraud project is not only to present to the federal court that it is a matter of public safety at this point, that they intervene in these things, but I also want to overload the federal courts with every possible bit of evidence of the harm and the wrongdoing and the violations of law on every level that these family courts are doing. In that way, every one of our cases, like I said, you got to have the ingredients right. One of the ingredients that we're going to use is when the federal judge finds that there has been fraud in the case, that they immediately refer that to the DOJ and the FBI, okay? So, when you look at it that way, what I want you to understand, okay, and something else that's really important, I want to say one more time, we are not asking with these cases for the courts. This is one of the ingredients that's most vital to your understanding of what we're about to do. We're not asking these courts to overturn or reverse judgments, okay? The reason the federal courts refuse to get involved with family court, and what has been hidden so hard from us, is the fact that they are unwilling to reverse or overturn these judgments, okay? That means that when we present them with a different method, which is we're asking them actually, instead of that, to prove that the case was null or void from the beginning, then that means we will be successful. But anyway, there's a lot that goes into this, but it's not complicated. It's literally, we're going to have paragraph by paragraph, and we're going to do it together as a group for every individual case. I'm telling you right now, when we ask every last one of us as in our motion for relief, that if the judge makes a finding of fraud, then he immediately refer it to the DOJ and the FBI, then we're going to guarantee that even in one case, we'll be able to prove RICO, racketeering, okay? If we continue to allow these things to take place, then they're going to keep going the way they are. But if we do this as a group, if we file these federal cases by the thousands, by however many we can get, especially if we can get them all in at one time and overload these federal dockets, the goal is to force the intervention based on the bad behavior, law violations, constitutional violations, civil rights violations, etc. of these bad actors that we're listing as respondents in our complaint. So anyway, thank you for your question. And anyway, I need everybody to participate, kind of like, that question right there, because like I said, that's where we're going to find the answers that we all need. I am willing and able to answer any question you have, and I'm willing and able to do whatever it takes to make sure that everybody's covered. But that is the answer, and this is where your research needs to start. Your research needs to start today. Okay, timeline hopefully has been done by this point. Evidence organizing or access has been done hopefully by this point. If not, just keep working on that. But look up Hazel Atlas Glass Company. Look up that case law. Study it. Look at it. Understand it. Understand how it applies. Use AI to help explain it to you if you need that. I'm telling you, your best friend really needs to be like Microsoft Copilot or Google AI, okay? Now, after the Hazel Atlas Glass Company, the next case law that you need to research is Rooker Feldman, okay? You can use AI, and you can literally type into AI, how does the Rooker Feldman doctrine apply in my case, and give a brief description of what the fraud has been like, okay? And I'm telling you, the AI will assist with that. What I'm trying to do is empower everybody to be able to file pro se, taking their power back with the correct ingredients. And like I said, I want to encourage everybody that if the correct ingredients are in each of our federal cases, then it's not even possible for the federal courts to dismiss or get rid of our complaints, and then they have to pay damages. And you know as well as I do that in this case, everything is money, right? Everything, the world runs by money. So when the federal government sees that states, counties, etc. are having to pay out this money, CPS, individual attorneys, whatever. And I want to also add that part of our remedy is that we're going to be filing bar complaints. We're going to be filing judicial conduct review complaints in conjunction with the cases that we file. But anyway, when the government sees all the prospective damages, and to give you an idea, there have been many cases that were settled for like, I don't know, $25 million, somewhere in there. All I can say is I need everybody to understand that if the ingredients are right, which is why this has been so hard for us to figure out, which is why I spent 8 years trying to figure it out, okay? Then the judges, the federal judges, cannot dismiss us. That makes every last one of our cases able to be taken to the Supreme Court. So, this is how we force change. We force change by overloading the dockets and doing it with the proper evidence. So, Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good day. Look up Rooker Feldman case law. Look up Hazel Atlas Glass. And I will probably post another video this afternoon because I want us to get really on this and really started. So anyway, have a good day.